Hello! If you haven't already, please watch my build video and my first flight video. I've linked them below in the video description. Now that I've flown the Flying Fish from AtomRC a bit, I've learned a few tips and tricks. Here's the plane now, all stickered up and ready to go. On the topic of stickers, the included ones don't stick very well, and they should not be placed on curved surfaces unless you want them to peel. They're also impossible to get straight. As a result, my wingtip stickers are now long gone. The model includes center of gravity points shown here. After building the model, I found that it was tail heavy, so I moved all my components as far forward as I could. Even then, I had to add 10 grams of lead wheel weights to the front to get the model close to balanced. On the note of moving electronics forward, my video transmitter was sitting in front of all the venting that came with the model. Because I could only get a 20 centimeter MIPI cable for the VTX, I didn't have much flexibility in where I could mount it. To ensure adequate cooling for the VTX, I melted holes on each side of the model, then used some two-sided tape to add ducts to direct the airflow. I noticed the guides for the rudder and elevator were coming loose, possibly from me working and adjusting them many times. A dab of Gorilla Glue and some tape to hold the guides in place while the glue set has it back as good as new. I adjusted the rods to the inside of the servo arms instead of the outside to reduce stress on the guides. I am running the latest version of iNav version 8.0.1. Initially, my control surfaces were not moving enough while flying. To resolve this, I programmed the auto tune onto a switch on my transmitter. Once in the air, run auto tune, perform a sequence of movements as recommended by the iNav, then land and save. I did have to go in and tweak the tuning a bit after the auto-tune, but the model flies nice now. I did have some issues with the plane overcorrecting in movements, which is now mostly resolved. A few suggestions if you are having similar issues. Changing the aileron linkage to reduce the control surface movement, pulling back on the feed forward in the tuning, being light with the sticks, and if all else fails, recalibrate the accelerometer. In my case, recalibrating made the difference between something that was unflyable to something that was enjoyable to fly. I did bump up the minimum throttle for cruise under the advanced tuning tab. It seems to fly nice around 60 or 70% throttle. There was some constellation weirdness with the GPS. The iNav constellation options don't seem to do anything and always return to off. Using status in the CLI window, you can see which constellations are enabled. Note that the M10 chipset on my Flyfish GPS unit only supports a maximum of 3 constellations. To get further details, run GPS pass-through in the CLI window. Then run uCenter and you can get satellite by satellite details. I did mount the Maytech flight controller backwards to get the battery pads facing the front of the plane where the battery is. As a result, I did have to rotate the yaw axis 180 degrees in iNav. The default beeper settings in iNav are so annoying. It beeped for everything. I just wanted mission critical beeps, and everything else can show as a warning on the OSD. The beeper options are only available via the CLI window. I achieved my goal, and this is a sub 250 gram build. Being under 250 grams, it doesn't take much wind to degrade the flying experience. I hope you found this video interesting or it helped you with your own build. Thanks for watching. Now back to flying.